Hey everyone, I am Ananya. I work as a developer experience engineer at an awesome company called Kubrick, and I am also the Women Technikers Ambassador for the Bangalore chapter. And today we're gonna look into how to build a Flask app with MongoDB using the Flask framework and the NoSQL database called MongoDB. And hopefully we should be done in 30 minutes. So let's begin. Let's talk a little bit about web frameworks. There are some pretty famous web frameworks that you all know about. You have heard about Django, Flask, or Pyramid. Well, Django is sort of a fully featured high-level framework for building web apps. It focuses on automating as much as possible. And a lot of large-scale sites run on it, and you might not believe it, but Instagram is one of them. Flask, on the other hand, is a micro framework for Python, and this allows users to make basic backend APIs and web apps with minimal code. It's super easy to pick up and plug in and play with, so that's what we'll do today. But don't think of it as a super simple web framework that can't do much, because the awesome thing about Flask is that your web application grows, and then you can add on all sorts of different modules to it to help you add functionalities or databases or other things that you might need for your web app to do. Pyramid is another web framework. It is a successor to an older framework called Pylon. The awesome thing about it is that it's open source. Okay, so let's look at how to build a basic Flask app to get started. So what do we need to do? Let's start by making a virtual environment, and let's install Flask and then get coding with our first hello world sort of application for Flask. So before we begin, I would like to tell you that this is Visual Studio Code, and you could use any IDE that supports Python. And so before we begin, let's just make up a virtual environment. It'll take a minute, and then let's just add a new file called hello.py. Cool. So now we're sort of set up, and let's activate the by this you are going to activate your virtual environment, and we can begin. So the first step was to install Flask. So for installing Flask, you go python-m pip install Flask. That's it. It's that simple. It might take a minute. Cool. I think we're done. So from here we can start with from Flask import Flask, and alright, so this is for importing the Flask framework. And now let's make a new object with, and we'll just instantiate it with the dunder name. Dunder is actually for double under, because double under is dunder. Simple, right? Alright, so once we instantiate this new object with name, let's make a simple function. So let's say def hello. Oops, hello. Okay, and we'll just return hello folks. Alright, so this was simple, right? But the way that Flask knows how to handle requests is by an app.root. It is a decorator. That's something we are going to use here. So decorators are taken up by the @ symbol, and we need to specify a row using this decorator, and we do that by writing app.root, and we pass in a string here, So what happens in Flask is the way the decorators work is you put them above your Python functions, and that's why we put it above our Python function here. And in order for Flask to know which route to serve, this is where it goes. Oops, I think I made a typo. Yeah. So this is where it goes, and the simple slash is sort of the route where we go to. I meant root. Whoops. I meant root is this. Okay, so I think we're done with the Flask app. I mean, to start it out, we'll need okay, so now to run this I need a Flask app and Flask app runner and tell it where my app is contained. So what we'll do is we'll just use export Flask app equals hello.py, and oops, I think there will be no spaces because yeah, and we do Flask run. Yep, so I'll just put it up in the code as well. So for Mac people, this will work out. You can do a Flask run, and for my Windows friends, I think something like $environment equals colon Flask underscore app equals hello.py, and then a semicolon, and Flask run should work. Cool. The neat thing about this is it's going to spin up a local server on our computer that runs on the application. That means it is serving our app. Of course, it's not to be used in production environment because it won't scale. But something like this is used mostly for testing or developing, and for production we'll use something like a WSGI server instead. So something like UVcorn or Goonicorn, I'll just write that down. UVcorn or Goonicorn is something that would work for the production environment. Yep. So we can simply hit command plus click on this, and we'll be taken to the root where it says hello folks. I hope you can all see it. Yeah, so okay, that works. Neat. To the Flask app, let me just take a step back and talk about the request response model that Flask and any web framework would follow. So let's see, on the left side we have a user named Rachel, the API is the barista, and the app is the kitchen. So Rachel goes up to the barista and just asks for a coffee. That is the method that we see here, and she can tell what kind of sugar she wants. Maybe she wants she wants to add caramel to her coffee. Maybe she wants to add some chocolate chips to her coffee. We never know. It's their choice. So the barista takes the order and it requests it to the kitchen. The kitchen is where the actual processing happens, but the user will only interact with the barista, which is the user will only interact with the API. So the kitchen, while it's preparing the special coffee with different parameters, these two can keep on being in a connection. So once this coffee is done, this app or the kitchen sends the response back to the barista, and this barista sends the response back to the user. So it sends the barista sends the coffee to Rachel. So this is how a simple request response model works on the HTTP front in a simple coffee shop manner. Let's look a little bit more deeper into routing. So what if we did something similar here and we wanted to divert our app to another route? We'll just make another endpoint. These are called endpoints, and you can make it, let's say, terminal. If you do that and you make function, let's say, and it returns income. Cool. So we save this. So here we need to restart the server by doing Flask export and then Flask run. There's an easier way to do this, so let me show that to you first. I will do the Flask app. Export Flask app equals hello.py, and we'll set the Flask environment to development, and we'll do a Flask run. So this will continuously keep reloading your changes, so you won't have to save this and reload this and save this and reload this. It will keep on coming back to the right thing. So we'll just go here. It says hello folks here because we are at the root. If we do terminal, it says Vanakkam. It was that simple. Okay, so let's also understand that this is an API endpoint. Basically, you just made an API and an API call. So you can even accept parameters in this. You can give type hints. You can declare what HTTP methods you want, like a get or a post. It's as simple as just doing methods equals get or post or whatever you would like to have. Go back and look at how we can add parameters to into our app. So we'll just see how parameterization works. Let's make an endpoint. Let's say name, and then / we'd expect the person to give us a name. And we'll add the names to here and let's return Vanakkam. And we'll do a formatted string for better visibility. And we save this, and this gets reloaded, and we can go back to here. And if we type out name, and let me type out my name, it says Vanakkam Ananya. It's that simple. And we can keep on changing this on the fly. That's not an issue. So if we keep doing this, it's gonna keep doing that. Cool. So now let's look into the actual app that we'll use all of these things and even more, even the get and post calls, and we'll use many more things. So let's look into that. Let's make a new file called main.py, and from Flask import Flask. Cool. About MongoDB. So MongoDB is an awesome database that is super easy to use and really easy to set up. So let's do that. You can go to mongodb.com. This is where you can sign in or try for free. Let's get signed in. Once you're signed in, you will see something like this. You can choose the free tier and go to create a cluster. This is how we set up the cluster, and we're going to start by working with the actual Python code later and see how we can do different operations on our DB, basically all the CRUD and fun stuff, that is create, read, update and delete sort of stuff. We'll do that in the code later. So first of all, we'll just get to this page. We create a cluster. So I'm gonna do is, you can choose any of the above. I'm gonna choose whatever is closer to me. You could do it from any of the possible places. So until unless it says free, we are in the free tier, and if we configure one of those things, it might go to a non-free version. So we'll just click on create a cluster. It might take some time to create one. It'll take some minute to two. Also, you could host MongoDB on your local, but that's a totally different process that we won't look at right now. But that is something where you can set up your own MongoDB localhost server and access it through your own terminal. We choose the lowest, we choose the closest sort of cluster to us because we want the lowest latency possible. So that's why I chose Mumbai, because I'm in India. Might take up a few minutes because it's actually allocating some physical actual space into a machine, and it should be done in a minute or two. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a sample database to start and connect. So let's click on cluster 0 and we'll go to collections, and we go into add our own database where we'll add our own data. So we'll have a database name, we'll also have a collection name. So this can be so let's make a simple app to maybe give it to a nursery. Nursery is where plants are grown so that people can come and buy them. So let's give this a name, nursery, and let's look at seeds. So we'll create this. It'll take a moment. This database is specific to your app, so go to the collection name, and you can see here that nursery has this. If you want to add another thing like plants or saplings, we can do so. We can have multiple collections within a database. Alright, so let's go back to our initial project. This is the project 0 dashboard. Here we'll go to connect, because we'll want to connect to our cluster through our Flask app or through our Python app. So we whitelist the IP. So I'll go to add your current IP or add a different IP address if you are accessing through a different one. So I'm gonna write my iPhone hotspot, and I just add my IP address. Cool. And I'll create a user. I'll just write Anand, and I'll just give it a password 12345 because I'm gonna delete this cluster as soon as this talk is over, so that there's no point in knowing my ID and password actually. So nope. Alright, so I think we did not create the user. 1 second. 12345 that's my passcode. Create the Mongo. Oops. Okay, let's do 123 ANAN and create that user. Cool. So now we choose the connection method. So we'll connect our application because the Flask is the application that I want to do, and our driver will be Python, and the version is 3.6 or later. If you want to know what your Python version is, you can go back to your editor and just type on Python -- version, and you will get, so it's 2.7.6 right now, but if we go to so spin activate and here we have our virtual environment, and you remember we made it with Python 3. If we do Python version again, we'll get 3.7.6. This is the one that is there in our app as of now. So 3.6 or later works for us. What we'll do next is just copy it and or keep it handy somewhere, and we'll just tag in our password here that was 123ANN, right? So whatever your password and ID is, it's gonna come up here. You just have to change your password within this and you are good to go. Cool. In our code later. We're done from the web end of it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and have it here. So my password here is going to change to ANN123. Okay, so before we begin, we are going to again pip install PyMongo, because this is the library that's gonna help us with MongoDB. So what you're gonna do here is just import PyMongo, and from PyMongo import Mongo client. Let's make sure this works, because I have a feeling it doesn't, but it does. Cool. So we just had this here. Now let's go ahead and set up a connection to the cluster we made on the cloud. So let's name it cluster. Let this cluster be an object for Mongo client, and what you're gonna do is have this within double quotes in here. We can delete this now. Cool. Now that we have a cluster, we will go ahead and define what a database is and a collection is. We're working with this, so in the connection to this cluster we'll have a DB. We can have the same, this cluster to be instantiated, and we had already done that with something called nursery. This was our database, and similarly we'll just make our collection and DB, and we made them seed or seeds. I've got to check. 1 second. I think we went into collections, seeds. Cool. So we'll just make it seeds also here. Yep. Cool. Now that we have our collection set up and our database set up, we are gonna understand something called posts. So okay, so to add any one thing to our database, we're just gonna go to insert one. This is one of its properties, and it takes up something like a dictionary object or like a JSON, if you want to say. And this, okay, so let's just go back a second and think of the cluster as a huge circle, and that circle within it has one or many databases. Each database may have one or many collections. Each collection would have posts. So posts are like entries into our database, the ones that look like sort of like a dictionary. So they have an underscore ID field. If we set it to any ID, we'll be able to access it later for some stuff. So let me just add seed let's say name for now. We'll just delete it later to structure the code better. Let's say we have peas. Cool. We'll just save this, we'll run it. Oops, I think we'll need DNS Python also, because we use, oops, this is because we use this MongoDB plus SRV thing. So I think it should work now again. And whoops, I think there's an authentication failure. Oh, okay, I think I have my password is wrong. I think this was the password we set in, and this should work. Cool. So in the database we should have an ID 0 with a seed name of peas. Let's look at that. Oops. Let's go to our cluster 0 and go to collections. is our nursery. We go to seeds. Ooh, okay, yeah. So we have our post here with ID 0 and seed name peas. Let's see what if we don't give an ID, what it does. Let's give it apple and see what happens. This will surely work. The only thing is it's gonna give a very different sort of ID. It's gonna auto allocate an ID to us. So it's gonna look something like an object ID, and it's a little difficult to access if you want to access by the ID or something. So we'll stick to adding the IDs ourselves. The ID can also be a string, it won't matter. Just remember the underscore before it. Let's say we just put it seed1, and this is just random, adding random data to it. Let's make it oranges so that we can see that. And this can also be done in another way. Okay, we'll go here and just have a look. So of course we'll have the ID of seed name seed1, and with the seed name it will be apple. So it can be anything. And what we're gonna do is just freshen this up and delete everything from here itself. You can go ahead and do a delete one from here as well. If we run this from here and we refresh this, I think this should be gone. It has pretty intuitive endpoints to it. Oops, it's still there. I think just need to pass in. Oh, okay, this was seed name apples. Yeah, so this should do the trick. While we can send this, if you want to send more than one, then you can do something like insert many, and here we can just have a similar looking thing like this and add it here. But before you do that, I suggest that you have different posts. Let's say post 1 with this, post 2 with another one of this. Let's say C2, let's say, I don't know, guavas, and we're gonna of course put them in as a string. To make it easier, I'll just make it this string, and we can just add it as a simple comma post 2, and these two should work. Cool. Now let's look at how to make our app, and we'll start fresh. Cool. So we still have the cluster, we have the DB, and we have the collection. We're going to use all three. Let's also, we've imported Flask already, so what we'll do is we'll just create an app equals Flask under name. Cool. Okay, now we should get started with building our endpoints. So we'll do app.root, and we'll have something called seeds, so we can see all the seeds that are here, and let's make it a method of get type. Cool. So let's make get seeds. Okay, and let's put them all in a list. All seeds can be a list of collection dot find is something that will help you find, and if we pass in an ID object here like we saw before, we can just find all the occurrences of that. If we put in something here, let's say find out those things. So what we can do is we can return json.dump. So we'll need to import JSON, and let's also, while we're here, from bson import JSON util. This is something that's going to come in handy a little later. So we'll do json.dumps and we'll dump in all the seeds and let our default be json util default. Yep, here we are. So this should get us all the seeds that are there. Before we do this, let's collection dot insert one, and we'll just give it some random ID. Even I forget the underscore ID sometimes. Try not to. We'll give it an ID, let's say 15, right? And we'll just give it a seed name of apples. Cool. So yeah, this should be good to go. From this, I think we'll be able to go into the database, and it should have an entry of 15 and apples. We're just gonna go ahead and just get this done, and we'll export Flask app equals mean dot by and Flask run. Oops, I always forget the spaces. I hope you don't. And this should be working. We should be able to see it in. Okay, whoops. This is because we did this more than once. So this is a good thing. We can't add more stuff to it. So for now, we can just add in the ID, maybe new seed 1, just randomly picking up a name. This should, it was already news. Okay, I think we will be okay. So I'm just gonna delete this so that there's no more confusion. I think there are more than one shells open. Yep, so we'll just close that up. Control C and close that up, and we can go back to our oldest shell, and I think it should work now. Yeah, so this happens because localhost can only have one running address. This will not be found because of course we don't have a slash, just the root. So if you do /seeds, I think we should be able to see it. Yep, so we have two of them. We have ID 15 seed name and ID 12 as seed name new seed. So I think if we refresh here, that's what you'll be able to see here also, for sure. And so this is a very simple setup that we did, where we go and get all the seeds and we just return them here in our app, and this is retrieving from the database on the fly. Okay, so let's look at the things that we could do next. So for this CD app, oh, that's a good name, we should give it the name CD. Cool. So herein we'll need to add a method to add a seed, because you can't keep doing insert again and again, because you know that the ID will keep on getting bad if we do it more than once. So let's make an add seed method, and we can make it post method, because you don't need to really get anything. Cool. So here, first of all, we'll need to probably use request.json because it's a post method. And okay, so let's make a request payload, and we'll set it to request request.json. Cool. So this is because if the key won't exist, if the key doesn't exist, it will return none, so we don't get, it'll basically gracefully handle everything. So okay, so let's add a seed. It should be of the type request payload, and it should have something like a seed in it. So we can use something like Postman, and let's get into that. Oops, we'll just go into the Postman. Yep, and what we'll do is we'll add the URL that we have here. Just copy this, add this here, and we'll add seed. This can be our request. In the body we can go and add a seed type, so we'll just make it like seed, and let's say inside this we have another dictionary, and we can have the seed name as apple, and we can have, let's say we'll add the count where we want to add the, so this add seed method would basically add different counts of apples, so no need to make it indented, it's fine. So we'll just save this for now. Just let it be here, and we'll continue with this. So this seed will actually be taken from here, and so we can access the name and the count within it. So okay, let's get back to this. So we'll have, if there's an existing seed, how do we check that? Collection dot find, and we're just gonna put in the ID as the seed, and we put in the seed name. So seed name is sort of going to be the ID in our name. So it's going to be the ID in our database. I'm just going to make it underscore for underscore. Yep. So okay, so existing seed will be collection.find ID seed name. If the seed name of apple exists, we'll add to apple. So what we can do it, if existing seed, we can just, so existing seed, if it returns something, it will return a list of some things. So we'll do if existing seed, so for let's say x seed in existing seeds. So let's say our old count is x seed count, and we'll just make it an int, typecast it to an int just to be safe. We'll add how many we need to add into it. So this can be again an int, and we can just do seed count. This is the one that is being sent here. So let's say the count was 3 before. Now if we add 27 more, it's going to be 30. So let's say we'll make an updated seed. I'm being very explicit here, you can all do it in one go. We'll just like addition plus old count. Yep. So now we're done with this. We'll just do collection dot, you can do something like find one, update one. These methods are very very intuitive. Collection dot find one and update. Yep. So this should do the trick. We'll just add our underscore ID to be the seed name. I'll just make it double quotes just to be sure. We added a seed name, and we can do a set. A set on that, and we can set it to the seed count that we took here. Updated seeds. So we have this, and now here we need to have upsert to be true. Okay, what if the seed does not exist? If the seed does not exist, the add seed method should be able to add this new seed. So what simply we'll do is do an insert one onto it, and we'll give the ID as seed name. Okay, and again do it in double quotes just to be safe, though it does not make much difference, but I'm going to be super safe here, and I'll just do that. We'll make so our database will have something like ID and seed count and seed name and things like that. So we're just going to update that right here, and we're just gonna have seed count over here. I think this should work. Yep, I think we won't have one here. Yep, so this is like one post that we do, one insert one that we saw before. We're just gonna do the same thing, and let's run a message so that it says thank you for adding seeds. The total amount of seeds have now increased. Well, this does not look very intuitive, so thanks for adding. Let's say we'll just add, because we have the number of added seeds, we can just take this up and add thank you for adding like 15 seeds. Thank you for adding, oops, my English has gone bad, adding like 15 seeds, and the total amount of seeds have, oops, this should have been now, but we'll just add how many are there. So updated seeds is the count that we have in our database. We can also tweak it a little bit, like the total amount or the total count of, let's add the seeds also here, so we can add the seed name by accessing it from the seed's name name. Yeah, this should look good. Alright, so once we did the add seed, now to test it we can do it through Postman. Let's all do it all together. So we'll just make app.root, and let's make a return seed, or let's make something like buy seed. So if you have this method, you can buy the seed. So basically you'll just take it off. Let's assume this is a very generous market and it has the ability to just give you the seeds for free, so we won't put in the money here. So we'll just do buy seeds. This should be fine. So like we did before, let's just take this same thing up and make sure, so this request payload will look exactly like this at every given point of time. Even if you want to buy, let's say, apple seeds, we need to tell them how many we need to buy. So this request payload is something that will make sure that this key, if it doesn't exist, it is given out to be none. Now what we can do is the same thing that we did before. Just gonna lower this so we can see everything together. We're gonna copy the same thing because it's essentially the same. We will again do, if there's a seed existing already, we're just gonna let them buy the seed. So for that we need to make if existing seed dot count. That is an important thing, because this will return a none, and none will still be considered as a count. So if we do c.count, if it is present and it's not none, then only we go inside. And again, for, let's say, we can use the same sort of format that we did before. In existing seed, we can go ahead and have an old count. Let's make it int of xseed itself. Oops. Okay. Xseed itself, and we'll have seed count like before, because this is what we'll put in our database. This is the format we're gonna put. and you can use type hints if you need requirement. I wish there was a corrector here. So seed count, the same like we did before. So here the addition was the seed count that was taken from here. Right now we'll just have it as requirement because this is what we need to subtract. So first we'll what we can do is we can just have updated seeds like we did before. Updated seeds equals old count minus requirement. But this can give out an error even though this isn't. If you can figure out what the error is, post it in the comments below, but I'm gonna make it pretty clear now. What if the requirements is like 50 seeds but you only have 49? So we'll need to put a check in here. So we'll just do if requirement is more than the old count, which is the original count, we'll just let them know that return something like only few seeds remain, you should order, maybe you should buy a little less. We'll get back to this one once this is done and we have this issue sorted. I think we can just make it updated seeds. I think updated seeds will, remaining seeds might be more intuitive. So remaining seeds can be old count minus the requirement seeds, and we can just collection dot find and one and update. Find one and update. Yep, and the similar thing that we did before, we are going to do pretty much the same thing here. So we're gonna add one post, and in this post we're gonna have the ID, and this ID has to be set to the seed name. Cool. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna set $set like we did. Did the same mistake again. $set, and this takes up this way seed count because that is what we call it, and we make it to remaining seeds. And here also we need to have the upsert to true. Cool. I think this should work, and we'll just add a return. We'll just return a message saying let's say thank you for buying seeds. The total amount of seeds is now lesser, of course. So again we'll just do this, and thank you for buying this many amount of seeds. So this many amount can come from requirement of seeds, and the total amount of seeds of which seeds, let's say we will just have seed name here, and yeah, so the seeds is now lesser. How much lesser? We'll just put it into we have the count in remaining seeds. Yep. So what if all of this doesn't work and we need to have an else clause for this? So return, we can just give out a message saying whatever seed name you are finding is not in the inventory. So I'll just add the seed name here. Okay, let's say apple seed, for example. We have apple here. Apple seed is not in the inventory. Please try later, or please try again. Buying another seed. Cool, this should be good to go. I think we can do one more tweak out here. Only a few seeds remain can have only however many seeds we have, so we can have it as old count. Only like 5 seeds remain. You should buy a little less can be try buying a lesser number. Maybe you can do a addition subtraction here and just let it come within these brackets. So I think this should be good to go. To help you start the app, let's just define a main. And we'll do a app.run here, and we'll just make it debug as true to make it easier to debug, and we'll have the port as 5000, and we'll have our host as well, we'll just have it as 0.0.0.0. that is the local. So alright, let's try it out. I'll just save this, and yeah. One improvement that we did was that we'll have the count more than 0, so that we have it for sure that this existing seed does exist indeed. And yeah, so let's try it out. We'll just export the app. Alright, first we'll just get back into the activate, then we'll export it, and then we will Flask run. I hope you remember this was for revisiting every time we do any changes. It's going to deploy on its own, sort of a deploy. Yeah, so we have the add seed method, which is a post method. We have a buy seed method, post method. We have a seeds method, get method. So what we'll do is we'll try it one by one. We will go to postman, and let's first get all seeds. I'm not doing it on the browser because post calls on the browser are a little weird. So this is what we have as of now because I tried it out 2 times. Let's just put in some apple seeds. Let's put in 5 apple seeds and do a post call to add seeds, and we send it. Whoops. It's a post call to add seeds. I think this should have worked. I'm not sure. Yeah, it hasn't. Oh, okay. So this was because it was an add seed. Yep, and the seeds are added, and we can see it here. Also, while that loads, I'll actually make a new one and just have the same thing. Keep it a post call, keep this as seeds, and it should show us apple as 5. If we add let's say 15 more seeds to apple, this should show added seeds, and if we make this get call again, it's gonna increase the seed count to 20. Now let's get to buying some seeds. So let's take this and duplicate. I think I'll just duplicate the tab, it's actually a little easier. So we'll have the body, we already have apple. So let's see if we have mango seeds. When we buy 15 seeds, what happens? Oops, it just added seeds, so I have to make it buy seed. And let's say mango, I'll just buy like 35 seeds because I know there's a lot. So here, thank you for buying 35 seeds. The total amount of your mango seed is now 90. Cool. So what if you wanted to buy apple seeds, and let's buy 35 seeds and see what happens. But there are only 20 seeds remain. You should buy a little less. So we'll say 90, and let's see how it works. Cool. So this endpoint works perfectly. Here we have made a little app where we can get the seed count, we can buy the seed, we can add the seed into it. So it's sort of a small nursery where you can do all of this with a little app. You can have different applications to all of this. This is a very basic level of having a Flask app and having MongoDB connected to it. You can connect it locally, you can configure it locally, you can make more than one collections, work for more than one collections. Maybe in this app itself you can have a different collection, let's say saplings or something like that, and have different methods that cater to that collection only. What I'm going to do now is going to put this code up on GitHub and share the repo link with all of you, so you can possibly just, once you do all the installs, once you just get your environment set up, you can actually just run this on for yourself. The only thing you need to configure is this MongoDB, and I hope that you like this. And questions, you can connect with me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. You can find me at pi_ANN. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye bye.